This point, you've covered it a bit, but just to explore it a bit more, of elite competition in the Russian system, which the book covers really well. It's a bit like a soap opera, and there's a bit of humor in there, Mark, that you deploy to great effect. And just explain it, Prigozhin, the military, the FSB, this personal competition. You've talked about the contracts, but this was something pending for a much longer period of time from Syria, where clearly as you described, the Americans were allowed to essentially destroy a part of a force. I mean, just talk us through that, because this competition, this more than a triangle, was underway for some time. And as you portray it, Putin is above all of this, intervening. He doesn't want to disappoint. In effect, he comes across as a weaker figure under which this competition occurs, and he doesn't intervene to solve it. He uses it, as I read the book.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely central to how Putin manages the elite. And in fairness, although I regard Putin as distinctly limited in many ways, one has to say this is where he's really shown his skill, is precisely creating this constant ferment within the elite, individuals, factions and institutions competing against each other, usually because of deliberately overlapping responsibilities and interests. Because that, first of all, means that no one can really unite against him. He remains the sort of the final decider at the top. And secondly, precisely because he can go in and he can decide who wins this particular competition. If he gets to pick the winners and the losers, then that gives everyone a good reason to basically want to please and flatter and speak to the boss. And let's be clear, the real currency, the true currency of Russia is not the ruble, it is Putin's favor. So that is often politically very functional, even if administratively dysfunctional, because precisely, you have all kinds of different sort of competitions over particular areas of state activity. The thing is, in this case, when you've got someone like Prigozhin, who is not, as I say, in Putin's closest innermost circle, despite some of the talk, he was never a friend of Putin's. He was one of many suitors to Putin's attention. He was clearly sort of trusted to a considerable degree, or regarded as having certain competencies. But even then, I mean, Putin, we talk in the book at one point about a point when Putin just really gratuitously decides to put him down. Walking past him in St. Petersburg, and sort of says, "Oh, nice hairstyle," and points to his head. That's classic Putin. He likes putting people down just to make sure that they appreciate where they are in the pecking order. So in that respect, Prigozhin is like so many of these kind of what I call them adhocrats, whose responsibilities are just simply whatever the boss wants them to be. Hence, a catering magnate can become a troll master and then in due course a mercenary commander. You're constantly trying to see how you can compete for the boss's favor. And sometimes that means guessing what the boss is going to want tomorrow and providing it today. And sometimes it's going to mean precisely doing down your rivals. And this is exactly where Prigozhin found himself. But the point is, as he rose, he was getting into more and more dangerous environments. It's one thing when he was largely a kind of a catering and real estate magnate, facing similar comparable figures. But by the time he was running a mercenary army, and particularly at the point where he really was making his name, both for the trolls and the mercenaries at around sort of 2015, which is when they were going into Syria. Now he's up against much more formidable figures. Figures like Shoigu, who, as I said, have actually, they are Putin's friends. Shoigu famously would take Putin on holiday to sort of hiking through Siberia, with added photo opportunities. And this is the environment in which he finds himself. And it's one in which, he again can demonstrate certain sort of primal skills. But ultimately, Prigozhin's key blunder is that he's never able to make alliances. When you're operating at that level, you need to have allies, not just patrons and clients, but allies. And he was never able to do that. And again, that tells us something about the deinstitutionalization of the top of the Putin system. The degree to which it's about personalistic relationships, it's about your capacity to pitch your ideas or just simply your value to the boss. And today he will support you. He might not tomorrow. So like a shark, you have to keep swimming in order to keep breathing.